How the tourist and travel industry took a blow in recent times. Let's face it, since the COVID-19 pandemic has started, the tourism and travel industry, one of the most important industries globally, has taken a nosedive, and things don't seem to be improving anytime soon. In today's video, we will be taking a look at a brief history about the tourism industry, how it came to be one of the most important industries, how it was hit by the pandemic, and what lies ahead for the future. Stay tuned and watch the video right till the end, as you shall get some insight on what lies ahead for one of the world's most important industries. Before we begin, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. Also turn on the bell for the latest notifications. Make sure you never miss another video. With that said, let's begin. Before COVID-19, travel and tourism had become one of the most important sectors in the world economy, accounting for 10% of global GDP and more than 320 million jobs worldwide. But let's take a look at how it all started until COVID-19 decided to put a stop on global tourism. In 1950, at the dawn of the jet age, just 25 million people took foreign trips. By 2019, that number had reached 1.5 billion. And the travel and tourism sector had grown to almost too big to fail proportions for any economy. The global pandemic, the first of its scale in a new era of interconnectedness, has put 100 million jobs at risk. Many in micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises that employ a high share of women, who represent 54% of the tourism workforce, according to the United Nations World Tourism Organization, UNWTO. Tourism-dependent countries will likely feel the negative impacts of the crisis for much longer than other economies. Contact-intensive services key to the tourism and travel sectors are disproportionately affected by the pandemic and will continue to struggle until people feel safe to travel en masse again. There is no way we can grow our way out of this hole we are in. Erwin LaRocque, Secretary General of Caribbean Community, said at a virtual event in September. From the white sand beaches of the Caribbean, Seychelles, Mauritius, and the Pacific to the back streets of Bangkok, to Africa's sweeping national parks, countries are grappling with how to lure back visitors while avoiding new outbreaks of infection. The solutions range from wooing the ultra-rich, who can quarantine on their yachts, to inviting people to stay for periods of up to a year and work virtually while enjoying a tropical view. Tourism receipts worldwide are not expected to recover to 2019 levels until 2023. In the first half of this year, tourist arrivals fell globally by more than 65%, with a near halt since April, compared with 8% during the global financial crisis and 17% amid the SARS epidemic of 2003, according to ongoing IMF research on tourism in a post-pandemic world. The October World Economic Outlook projected the global economy would contract by 4.4% in 2020. The shock in tourism-dependent economies will be far worse. Real GDP among African countries dependent on tourism will shrink by 12%. Among tourism-dependent Caribbean nations, the decline will also reach 12%. Pacific Island nations such as Fiji could see real GDP shrink by a staggering 21% in 2020. Nor is the economic hit limited to the most tourism-dependent countries. In the United States, Hawaii saw 1 in every 6 jobs vanish by August. In Florida, where tourism accounts for up to 15% of the state's revenue, officials said it will take up to 3 years for the industry to recover. Among G20 countries, the hospitality and travel sectors make up 10% of employment and 9.5% of GDP on average, with the GDP share reaching 14% or more in Italy, Mexico, and Spain. A 6-month disruption to activity could directly reduce GDP between 2.5% and 3.5% across all G20 countries, according to a recent IMF paper. Development challenge. The crisis has crystallized the importance of tourism as a development pathway for many countries to decrease poverty and improve their economies. In sub-Saharan Africa, the development of tourism has been a key driver in closing the gap between poor and rich countries, with tourism-dependent countries averaging real per capita GDP growth of 2.4% between 1990 and 2019, significantly faster than non-tourism-dependent countries in the region, according to IMF staff. The small tourism-dependent nations are in many ways locked into their economic destinies. Among small island nations, there are few, if any, alternative sectors to which they can shift labor and capital. Seychelles, for example, has benefited from increase in tuna export during the COVID-19 period, which have somewhat offset tourism losses, but these additional earnings remain a fraction of tourism receipts. The government is also carrying out a plan to pay wages to displaced tourism sector workers while offering opportunities for retraining. Meanwhile, the government of Barbados is trying to maintain social spending and reprioritize capital spending to create jobs, at least temporarily, in non-tourism sectors such as agriculture and infrastructure development. The Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association has projected that as many as 60% of the 30,000 new hotel rooms that were in the planning or construction phase throughout the Caribbean region will not be completed as a result of the crisis. Still, the crisis is being viewed as an opportunity to improve the industry in the medium and long term through greater digitalization and environmental sustainability. The UNWTO has encouraged support for worker training in order to build digital skills for harnessing the value of big data, data analytics, and artificial intelligence. Recovery should be leveraged to improve the industry's efficient use of energy and water, waste management, and sustainable sourcing of food. In a sector that employs 1 in 10 people globally, harnessing innovation and digitalization, embracing local values, and creating decent jobs for all, especially for youth, women, and the most vulnerable groups in our societies, could be at the forefront of tourism recovery, says the UNWTO Secretary General. Adjusting to a new normal, as the immediate impact of lockdowns and containment measures eased during the second half of 2020, countries started looking for a balance. Thailand, Seychelles, and other countries approved programs that would admit tourists from lower-risk countries with special quarantine requirements. Fiji has created blue lanes that will allow seafaring visitors to arrive on yachts and quarantine at sea before they unleash the immense economic impact they carry aboard. Prime Minister Frank Bainimarama declared on Twitter, St. Lucia requires a negative COVID-19 test no more than 7 days before arrival. Australia created a travel bubble that will eliminate quarantine requirements for travelers from New Zealand. CARICOM countries have also created a regional travel bubble that eliminates testing and quarantine for people traveling from countries within the bubble. In a new era of remote work, countries and territories such as Barbados, Estonia, Georgia, Antigua and Barbuda, Aruba, and the Cayman Islands offer new long-term permits, lasting up to 12 months in some places, to entice foreign visitors to bring their virtual offices with them while spending in local economies. Japan, which has seen its international arrivals triple from 2013 to 2018, started lifting border closures for travelers from certain countries at the end of October. To accommodate a post-pandemic tourism rebound, an IMF working paper recommends that the government continue a trend of relaxing visa requirements, draw visitors away from urban centers to less populated regions of the country, and complement a tourism comeback with improvements to labor resources and tourism infrastructure. Travelers and early adopters, from adventure travelers and backpackers to surfers and mountain climbers, the report says. Leisure travel will lead the comeback in the tourism and travel sector. Business travel, a crucial source of revenue for hotels and airlines, could see a permanent shift or may come back only in phases based on proximity, reason for travel, and sector. In the end, the return of tourism will likely hinge on what will be a deeply personal decision for many people as they weigh the risk of falling ill against the necessity of travel. The private sector, backed by some tourism-dependent nations, is developing global protocols for various travel industries, including a call for more rapid testing at airports to boost confidence in travel. The fact is, people do not feel comfortable traveling. We have not put in the necessary protocols to give them that comfort, St. Lucia Prime Minister Alan Chastanet said at a September virtual event. After 9/11, the TSA and other security agencies around the world did a fantastic job of developing protocols that regained the public's confidence to travel, and sadly with the pandemic we haven't done that. Thanks for watching.